I'm born and raised here in the city of Dallas, and so this is a city I love. It's a city I work in. All of us at WFAA care very deeply about what happens in this city, and so electing the next leader is critically important. It's a big decision, so it is an honor to be here today. I will not bore you with any more about myself. Let's get straight to what is going to happen today. Each candidate will get 4 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we will have a 30-minute Q&A. I will be asking questions that were submitted by you, the members of the Rotary Club. We will not be taking any questions from the floor. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer that question, and then we will wrap up with 2 minutes of closing thoughts from each candidate as well. So let's get started. We will begin with our opening statements in alphabetical order, and so we will get the first opening statement from Councilman Scott Griggs.
That's our usual test if we know alphabetical order. So we passed it again. I want you to know we've passed that test every time. Well, as many of you know, I'm Scott Griggs, and I'm running to be mayor of the city of Dallas. I'm a lifelong Dallasite. I grew up in North Dallas, went off to Texas A&M, where I got a degree in chemistry, then went to the University of Texas to study law, graduated, and I convinced my college sweetheart at the time to give Dallas a chance. So she moved here to Dallas, became my fiance and my wife, and I was living in Uptown and she was living in East Dallas. Mariana is here today, so it's great to see you. Spouses always deserve some applause on the campaign trail. I know both spouses have been absolutely wonderful during these last 6 months. And so 17 years ago, we moved to Oak Cliff, where we've been, and we've got 3 kids. They're 5, 3, and 1. And we've got 1 dog, 3 cats, and 7 chickens. So if you like fresh eggs, you can come visit with me afterwards. And let me tell you, for the last 8 years, I've had the privilege and honor of serving on the Dallas City Council. That's given me an opportunity to work with people throughout the city of Dallas. And what I know is that together, there's not a problem we can't solve. There's not a challenge we can't meet. There's not an opportunity we can't seize. I have more faith than ever in the people of the city of Dallas, and that's why I'm running to be your next mayor. I also recognize that it's time for a change. We need a new kind of mayor. So much in Dallas is going right, and I'm proud of my contributions to that while I've been on the Dallas City Council. But we've been focusing too much on the big projects, on the bridges, on the convention center hotel, on the horse park where you've probably never ridden a horse, on the golf course where you've probably never played a round of golf. And that has meant that we haven't gotten shared prosperity throughout the city of Dallas. And we're not sharing in that dream here of Dallas. And so what I want to do is focus on our shared values: accountability and transparency in government, safe, strong neighborhoods, and a renewed emphasis on the essentials and the basics, taking care of our first responders, particularly our police officers and firefighters, taking care of our streets, our parks, our rec centers, our libraries. That is what's going to make Dallas better for everyone. I want to focus on my number 1 priority for a few minutes. That's public safety. We are experiencing a public safety crisis here in the city of Dallas. This last month, we had 41 murders. You've got to go back to the 1990s to see a number like that in a month. Last night, the tragic shooting and death of a 14-year-old who is an innocent bystander. And so we've seen this public safety crisis building, and I've been talking about it for some time. Not having enough police officers. Following the pension crisis, we're down to 2,900 police officers. Seeing the increase in response times. So that's why on day 1, I'm ready to address this public safety crisis. We have to ensure here in the city of Dallas that we have a culture of safety that protects our neighborhoods, helps ensure that our businesses continue to thrive and grow. And that's what I'm going to do. Focus on increasing police pay and benefits, so that we can attract and retain the police officers we need in the city of Dallas to make sure that we are a safe city. And just so you know, on day 1, I'm ready to tackle that issue as well as the other issues facing the city of Dallas. I've been at the forefront of affordable housing for the last 8 years. And on day 1, I'm ready to implement the comprehensive housing policy to ensure that we have affordability throughout the city of Dallas. On day 1, I'm ready to take on our transportation challenges, from making sure DART gets people in southern Dallas to jobs, to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, to making sure DART's providing the increased level of service we want to see in downtown and uptown for all the people moving into those areas that want to live car-free. I'm ready to do that. On day 1, I'm ready to put in an economic development policy for southern Dallas that will work. You've probably all seen the great growth in the Bishop Arts District, and we can take the successful parts of that story and repeat it throughout Southern Dallas. So thank you so much for having me here today, and I look forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
Councilman, thank you. Let's get to opening statements now from Representative Eric Johnson.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the Rotary Club for hosting this incredible lunch. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to thank all of you for attending, whether you're a member of the Rotary Club or you're a guest like myself. Thank you for caring enough about your city to come out and hear a couple of people who have, for a long time, worked really hard to try to make our city better. So I appreciate your attendance today. 4 minutes is the longest introduction I think we've ever been given. So I'm going to try to give back at least a minute of that so we can get to some questions and all. But my name is Eric Johnson, and I'm running to be mayor of Dallas. And I wanted you to know, those of you who have not heard us, we've been together quite a lot over the past 5 months. So many of you have heard us before. But for those of you who don't know me, I am a Dallas native. I was born and raised in West Dallas in Oak Cliff. And I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship through the West Dallas Boys and Girls Club. I attended Green Hill School through a program that was operated by the West Dallas Boys and Girls Club. And I rode a bus every day for 11 years, from second grade through graduation, to attend Green Hill. And I moved to Oak Cliff later in 8th grade. So my family is primarily in Oak Cliff now. And when I say my family, I mean there are hundreds of us, because my grandparents actually moved to Dallas from a little town in East Texas called Marshall, Texas, in Harrison County in the 1940s. After World War II ended, my grandfather got honorably discharged from the Army. He and my grandmother moved to Dallas. They bought a little house in West Dallas, which was condemned through eminent domain to open the West Dallas housing projects. And then they moved into that housing project, and they raised my mother and her siblings. My mother met my father there. They've been together since the 8th grade, and they're still married today. And so we're Dallas through and through. I met my wife here. My wife is here today, and I want to say thank you in front of this crowd for being just the rock of our family. Just thank you for supporting me in my public service, and thank you for being there for me throughout this campaign. It is hard on the spouses, and I know. And so, Mariana, I appreciate you standing by Scott the way you have. It's just, this has not been easy. So here's what I want you to understand. I think the fundamental issue in this campaign, to me, the issue that we should be focusing on in this city is leadership at the Horseshoe to make sure that we can start getting things done for the people of Dallas. And I've talked to enough people, even before I was a candidate, about the issues at the city council and the divisiveness and the lack of an ability to build consensus around things that we all do want. Our property taxes in the city of Dallas are the highest of any major city in the state of Texas. And I've said this so many times that some of you have heard me say it before, but it's worth repeating. Our taxes are 35% higher than Houston, Texas's, and they're 40% higher than San Antonio, Texas, and they're 75% higher than Austin, Texas. And it needs to, that trend, and it has been a trend, needs to be reversed. And the way we're going to do that, and I've been saying this from day one, is to focus on the workforce in Dallas. I want Dallas to become known as the education and workforce capital of Texas. I want to lean in harder than we've ever leaned in before on getting more people in this city who are unemployed and underemployed, particularly in our southern part of our city, through our community college system, so they can be trained in one of the jobs that is being created by our tech economy, in particular, cybersecurity, healthcare-related professions, things that don't require a 4-year degree but require a little bit of community college. That will make all of the difference. We will be able to attract companies to Dallas without over-reliance on tax incentives. We'll be able to attract people the way Austin's been able to attract people because of the talented workforce. And once we do that, we will be able to enhance our tax base and lower everyone's taxes, which is a major priority and should be a major priority for this city. Take my word for it, as a 15-year public finance attorney, the only way forward for this city is if we grow this tax base, and that's how I plan to do it. Thank you very much.
Representative Johnson, thank you. Let's get to the questions now. With 39 people killed in the month of May, we just ended the deadliest month that the city of Dallas has seen since the 1990s. The rate of assaults and robberies is up too. What is contributing to this increase in violent crime, and what should be done about it? Representative Johnson, we'll let you take the first answer since Scott got the first opening statement.
Thank you very much. So the first thing I think we have to acknowledge is that we have a public safety challenge on our hands that we have to meet. But we've met every challenge we've ever had in this city, going back to this city's inception. And I have no doubt in my mind that if I'm mayor, we will address this challenge head on. Criminal justice and the criminology, there's a reason why you can get a PhD in this topic. There's a reason why there are schools that teach this, and you can learn this at a very high level, because it's complicated. It's not an easy fix. We know, and we knew before we had this uptick in crime, what our situation was with respect to our police in terms of the number of officers we have. That's not news. In fact, for the past 8 years, my opponent has been on a council where this has been a lingering and persistent problem. So this isn't actually news that we need to hire more officers. Your question at the heart of it is what's behind this uptick? And the answer to that is complicated. We don't know yet. We need to sit down with people like the police chief and the city manager and assess each individual case and figure out what has been going on. Because some of these murders are a product, I'm sure, of violence, street-type violence. Some of it could be domestic violence. There are different causes of crime, and we need to attack those issues at their core to prevent more crime. But solving this problem is going to take someone who's able, and I have been able to do this over the course of a 10-year career, to identify who the relevant people are who have the expertise, sit down with them, and come up with a plan to reallocate resources, reconfigure the homicide department, and allocate more resources to homicide, and make sure that we get this under control immediately. Because the job number one of any government is to protect its citizens and keep it safe. And no one understands that better than me. Being the son of a former Dallas police officer, I understand that.
Representative Johnson, thank you. Councilman Griggs, you called this in your opening statement a public safety crisis. Please elaborate.
Yes, this is a public safety crisis, and the genesis of the crisis is not having enough police officers. With the Dallas Police and Fire pension system, we went through a problem with the pension system. We had 3,600 officers just a couple years ago. And then as the pension started to collapse, I served on the pension system, helped save the Dallas Police and Fire pension, which saved the city of Dallas from going into bankruptcy. But during that process, we lost hundreds of police officers each month. And in a short period of time, we went from 3,600 uniform strength down to 2,900 where we are today. And we don't have enough officers to respond to calls. A priority one call, the most important call you may make in your life, to the city of Dallas, half the time there's not a police officer available to timely respond to that call. And we don't have enough homicide detectives. You heard we're having to take detectives from robbery and assaults and put them in homicide to get the number up above 13 homicide detectives. And so that's really robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's why for me, the number one priority is to raise pay and benefits. This last budget, we were able to raise police starting pay from $48,000 to $60,000. I helped lead that effort, which was so important to take us from being the lowest pay in North Texas up to the median pay. That has stopped the hemorrhaging of officers. But now to attract and retain, we need to get up closer to $72,000 and have some of the top paid officers in North Texas. And I'm prepared to do that. I've demonstrated leadership on that, and that's what we need, more officers. We need to look at the causes of these crimes, find patterns. Are they happening at car washes? If so, then we need to allocate our resources to those car washes. Do we see signals with assaults that these are gang-related, some of them? Then we need to increase our work with our gang unit. That's what we have to do to address these issues. And that's why this is priority number one for me. And that's why I've been endorsed by the Dallas Police Association, the Dallas Retired Police Officers, the Dallas Firefighters, and the Dallas Retired Firefighters. Public safety is standing behind me because they know this is my number one priority, and it is our number one priority as a city. Thank you.
You just mentioned needing more police officers. Our second question is that Dallas cannot recruit, hire, and train the approximately 1,000 police officers that the city needs overnight. So should citizens play a greater role as the eyes and ears for police officers? And how do you view the relationship between police officers and citizens today? Councilman Griggs, we'll begin with you.
Yes. One reason we need more police officers is to improve the relationship between the community and police officers. When you have more police officers, not only do you have police officers that can respond to crimes, investigate homicides, but you also have more neighborhood patrol officers, officers that go into the communities, talk to the churches, talk to the neighborhood associations, talk to the businesses, talk to other community leaders and stakeholders, and build those relationships. That's also the part that we're missing out on when the police force gets too low. So we also have to look, as our police force, ways where we can lateral officers in. For far too long in the city of Dallas, the story has been officers lateral out. They leave the city of Dallas and go to a place that's better pay. That's why we've got to increase our pay and our benefits so that officers will want to lateral into the city of Dallas, so that we won't just rely on the Dallas Police Academy to build up our uniform strength. And so we've got to look at all those strategies, everything that's possible, and increase our uniform strength. And that will, at the same time as we do that, improve relationships with the community. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
I think it's a great question. I appreciate it, actually, because I do think we need to talk more about some other aspects of this problem and how to get more officers to help with this problem. One of the things, I think we acknowledge the compensation issue is an issue. I think everyone who has run for mayor in this past cycle has spoken almost identically in terms of believing that the compensation and the benefits are an important part of this. But there's also a pipeline issue with public safety in the city. If you think about the parts of our city where some of these incidents are happening, and some of the communities that we're most concerned about having a police-community relationship that is less than ideal, those are some of the same communities that are producing the least law enforcement officers to police those communities. In other words, we would be better as a city if we home grew more of our officers to actually work in the communities that they come from. So what I would like to see, and if I am mayor, we will do this. We will double down on existing programs and grow programs in our public schools to actually encourage more children, I'll be very specific, more African American and Latino children in particular, to go into careers in law enforcement. Period. We need more young African American children and more Latino children to view law enforcement as an honorable profession and a way to serve your community and to come back and police and become firemen in Oak Cliff and in South Dallas and in Pleasant Grove and in the communities where they come from. That will actually help improve police-community relations, and it will make the community safer. So that's another aspect of this problem that I think we need to explore.
We could certainly talk about crime and the problems in Dallas all day long because it's such a hot topic right now, but I want to change gears. We want to know in our next question, why is it important to go after super corporations like Amazon, and how much in resources should be spent in this effort? Representative Johnson. I
think it's very important. It's rarely, I should say never, it's rarely the case that I have found in 10 years of making policy that something is either or, all or nothing. That's how you get into these throw out the baby with the bathwater situations and you make bad policy. It's not super corporations versus small business. We need the full range of our economy represented in Dallas. We need mom and pops and individual sole proprietorships all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. They all contribute to a vibrant tax base, and they all help you become a recession-proof city. So when one area of your economy is up and another may be down, it's okay, and then vice versa. So we want to have all of that. Dallas needs to have all businesses of all sizes, but it is important that we focus on those large corporations for a particular reason. They contribute a lot to a tax base of a city, and that's how we're going to get property tax relief for our residents. The main driver of your property taxes at the city level is going to be how quickly can we enhance the tax base in the city of Dallas. If we could get Texas Instruments to locate that new fabrication plant they just announced in Dallas instead of Richardson, that's a game changer for your tax base going ad infinitum. I mean, that's going to be in perpetuity practically. You don't just build those things and tear them down a few years later. That's an addition to our tax base that we would enjoy for a century or more. So that's the type of thing that we need to be focusing on. In addition to our small businesses, we have to have these large corporations that are very, very impactful, big impact on the tax base.
Councilman Griggs.
Yes, we need to attract corporations of all size and encourage small businesses in the city of Dallas. With respect to big corporations, I'm proud of the work on Dallas City Council to keep AT&T's headquarters here. If you haven't seen the plans for the $100 million they're investing in downtown on the new AT&T campus, it's phenomenal. That is going to be a game changer for the city of Dallas and how people look at the city of Dallas as a corporate headquarters. On other deals, we always look at the incentives on a case-by-case basis. We can look at bringing out the new Amazon facility out in West Dallas that's going to be built, the distribution center. That was a great deal to give some tax incentives on. is Amazon pledged to hire so many people from the city of Dallas and raise the wages. So we saw the benefit for people in the city of Dallas. Other deals too that I've questioned in the past would be like the Costco off of Central Expressway. I don't know how many of you have been to that Costco. Is it doing good? It looks like it's doing great. Well, they wanted a $3 million check to open that Costco. I oppose that. To me, that would be an example of an incentive that wasn't needed because there's already the pent-up demand for a Costco in that part of North Dallas. Another incentive that I opposed was giving $300,000 to ESPN to put on a football game after Christmas at Fair Park. ESPN said we're not going to make much money on the game, so if we're going to have it, you need to write us a check. I said probably better if you don't have the game. And then as many of you know, the game didn't even go one quarter and we were out $300,000. So I look at incentives on a case-by-case basis, and you really have to look at what's the long-term benefit to the city of Dallas. And with a place like Amazon, we saw it with the zoning AT&T was asking for downtown. That was a great entitlement to give. So those are examples on both sides of how I make these decisions.
Councilman, thank you. Question number 4. How would you change the way Dallas assesses and collects its tax revenues? And do you feel that the state helps or hampers the way in which we do this? Councilman Griggs, we'll begin with you.
Yes, there's no question that we've got to lower property taxes here in the city of Dallas. The last 3 cycles in the last 3 budgets at Dallas City Council, I voted with the council, the majority of the council, in reducing the tax rate. That needs to continue. As far as the state goes, we know what the big issue is. The big issue in the state is that Texas is a non-disclosure state. And through the MLS side on residential, most residential prices are disclosed, so that creates comps, but commercial prices are kept secret. And so that shifts under state law the burden from commercial property to residential property as far as the tax basis. So that is something that definitely needs to be looked at. It's been unfair. If one side's got to disclose, the other side should disclose also. It's just fair. As far as we collect taxes, using the Dallas County Appraisal District as our entity here to collect taxes, I would not like to change that. I think that's a huge undertaking that has years of institutional knowledge. And we should continue to work with the Dallas County Appraisal District. On other issues with the state, I always oppose any instances to take away local control. When the state comes in and wants to fix how much the overall rate can increase or any of that, I'm opposed to that. So we need to be partners with the state and recognize also with the state that we want to keep our local control, and one size does not fit all in Texas. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
One of the pieces of legislation that I've been supportive of in Austin that I think is the question reflects the need for it is we don't have a very good understanding of how taxes work, actually, property taxes work in this state. I served on the Ways and Means Committee, so I've become a little bit of a nerd on this. I'm going to try to avoid nerding out too much on it, but there's a fundamental flaw in the question that wasn't quite cleared up here, so I'm going to try to do this. The city, we have a tripartite system for the tax process in our state, meaning taxing jurisdictions, which the city of Dallas is, the county is, the school district is, the hospital district is, they set their tax rate. That's all they do. They set a tax rate in accordance with their budgetary needs. The assessment of property's value, the appraising of property is a separate function from the city that we have no control over whatsoever. And that was intentional and done by the legislature as a part of a big property tax reform several decades ago when taxing jurisdictions used to actually control both. And obviously, for obvious reasons, you can think about, you could start gaming the appraisals to get the tax revenue you need without saying you raised any taxes. So they broke that function apart. So the appraisal district is a separate entity, which is also a separate entity from the collection of taxes. The assessor collector, John Ames, is a different entity altogether from the appraisal district. So those 3 functions are actually all separated in 3 different entities, and the city only controls its own tax rate, which is what I want to focus on as mayor. And that's another thing that I think is important that we all understand generally about my approach to governing. I'm for levels of government doing their job and focusing on doing their job and not getting confused or confusing the voters about what they can and can't do and getting in other people's business. The legislature needs to leave the cities alone and let the cities be cities, and the city needs to step out of areas where the legislature knows best, like in certain areas related to education and whatnot. So everyone would do better if we understood our roles and just did those to the best of our ability. And we have the ability at the city level to control our tax rate, and that's what I want to lower, which we have not done in a long time.
Thank you, Representative. Question number 5. What one thing would you do differently from Mayor Rawlings, and what one thing would you not change? We'll begin with Representative Johnson.
So I would say that my answer is almost the same initiative, but I would pivot two different ways on what he did. Mayor Rawlings did a good thing. I'll take the thing he did right first, actually, and then pivot. Grow South was right-headed. It was right-minded because it recognized the anemic tax base that we have in the southern part of our city and the need to develop it. Because I think Mayor Rawlings, having a background in business, understood that the only way you're really going to lower our taxes in a sustainable way is to enhance our tax base so you can tax people on an individual basis less and less and less as the base gets better and better and better, which is why Austin's base is so good and the rate can be so low. So he was right about that, I think. What I think he could have done better, and it's not a slam of any sort, it's just a different level of focus now. I'd say the 2.0 of Grow South would be to shift the focus away from deals, although deals are great. People should be the focus of the next level of Grow South because the deals will follow the people. That's my strong belief based on experience of dealing with people who actually make these decisions for retailers and other businesses we're trying to attract. If people are more successful financially, they're making more money because they've been better trained and have a better job and they're earning more, we won't have to go through a whole lot of acrobatics to get them to locate in the southern part of our city. They'll want to be near that income so they can take that money in the form of dining dollars and entertainment dollars and everything else. So that's my criticism of the mayor, if you want to call it a criticism, is that there should have been at least a little more talk, and there will be if I'm mayor, on focusing on the workforce development and the people of the southern part of our city.
Representative, thank you. Councilman Griggs.
Yes, my answer is very similar. Grow South is a great initiative by Mayor Rawlings. The big success in it was rebranding the southern sector. No one wants to live in a sector or even have that part of your city as Southern Dallas. That was a huge success. And the other part of it that we can enhance is the initiative mostly focuses on big projects, like doing Redbird Mall, which is a great project. We need to do these big projects, but we have to add another dimension to it, smaller projects. Investing in communities, not just doing one $100 million project, but also doing $52 million projects so that we touch retail and neighborhoods throughout Southern Dallas. The big projects are wonderful, but they have a huge horizon to complete them. The smaller projects, we can get them done in about 2 years. The community can start seeing the benefit right away. And usually that benefits locally owned land, benefits locally owned businesses, benefits employees who are locally. So it really gets the local economies going. That's what we've been able to do, particularly on Jefferson, and we've got plans for it in other areas of Oak Cliff following that success in the Bishop Arts District. So that's an initiative we need to do. Then we need to look at the needs of Southern Dallas. We need, as an economic indicator, the number of grocery stores and put our money behind getting grocery stores in food deserts, bringing banks to the unbanked. Those are two big initiatives I have, as well as access for capital in Southern Dallas for entrepreneurs. Those need to be the metrics in Grow South.
Thank you. Councilman, thank you. One of you will be elected mayor in just 3 days. What are the two top priorities for Dallas that you will share with your new council colleagues next week? Councilman Griggs, we begin with you.
Yes, my number one priority is going to be public safety. We need to take that on. And we need to solve this public safety crisis that we're experiencing right now by immediately increasing salaries and benefits for our police officers and firefighters so that we can attract and retain officers through the academy, as well as opening up the door for laterals so we can rebuild the force, and then working with the police chief, city manager on how we're going to deal with the day-to-day crisis as it's unfolding. Number two is just going to be to have smart policy. Right now at the city of Dallas, we don't have an economic development policy. We need that. We don't have a transportation policy. We need that, and we're seeing the effects of that with our streets not being fixed right the first time and taking too long to get fixed, and with DART not servicing so many people in the city of Dallas, particularly in Southern Dallas, and then other policy initiatives like the comprehensive housing policy that I helped create, the first housing policy in city of Dallas history. Let's implement that, all the elements, on day one, so that we can get the 20,000 units of affordable housing we need in the city of Dallas, and that will certainly help keep the prices of homes down. One reason taxes keep going up is because the appraisals are going up, and that we've got far too many. We don't have enough supply. So working on that, and then that's going to lead to what I mentioned before, continuing to decrease the tax rate in the city of Dallas, which we've successfully decreased the tax rate the last 3 budgets. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you. So I think there are, numerous issues that actually my opponent I would probably agree are all important, but I think that what's important to keep in mind is that governing is a real-time live action undertaking, and there's a timing aspect to some of these things, and there's a real question that's sort of built into your question is, what would you take on immediately? What's the prioritization temporally, time-wise? I think the public safety situation and ethics have to be dealt with quickly, and I'll tell you why. Because unlike some of the other issues where citizens certainly care a lot about them and they're important, these are sort of the underpinnings of government and what a theory of government is supposed to be doing for its citizens. If a government can't keep you safe from harm, because by electing a government, you've actually handed over to a large degree the responsibility for keeping the collective safe and giving the police this power to do the things that they do. If a city can't keep you safe, and you fundamentally don't believe that the people who you've entrusted to run your city are running it in your best interest, you think they're all on the take, or you think that there's just a fundamental dishonesty going on there, that is how you begin to erode the fundamentals of your government and the underpinnings and the pillars of your society, frankly. So I think early on as mayor, what I would want to do is to show people that we are very serious about addressing this public safety situation by really, really leaning in hard on the current situation and addressing what needs to happen in the homicide division to get the murders under control. They need to see those numbers reverse quickly. That needs to happen for people to feel safe and understand that the government understands that's an issue and is addressing it. But we need to do ethics reform very quickly too. They need to also understand that everybody around that horseshoe is there for them, not there for their own benefit. And so those two things need to happen quickly. And then of course there are dozens of issues that need to be addressed over the course of the 4 or 8 years of the next person's mayor.
That was a quick 30 minutes, and we have a lot of other questions that we could get to, but unfortunately I was told that this crowd at 12:55 starts to get antsy, and you start looking at your watch, and so we have a hard out. And so we will now get to our closing statements, and since the councilman led us off with opening remarks, Representative Johnson, go ahead and take the closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So there was a mayor who I look up to as far as history is concerned in this city who had the same sounding name, spelled very differently, named Eric Johnson. And I've had the pleasure of reading a biography of him that was titled No Small Dreams. And this is our last debate of this campaign season, so I kind of want to leave you with some of the reflection that I've had over the course of this campaign. And the book really crystallized for me exactly what we need in our next mayor. The book talks about the fact that what Eric Johnson was able to do was he was able to squeeze the most out of a mayor position in Dallas that was designed in the progressive era to intentionally be weak. It was designed to intentionally avoid Dallas becoming what they call, a big city boss-led type city. And the way he was able to do it in the book, it describes this in great detail, was through the force of his personality and his ability to convince his colleagues on the council to go along with his vision. We have not changed our system since Eric Johnson was mayor. It's the same system, and it has the same limitations. And a person who's unable to, through the force of personality, hard work, leading by example, charisma, whatever you want to call it, the ability to move people forward in a unified way to accomplish an agenda is the only way a mayor of Dallas, not Chicago, not New York, not Houston, but Dallas, can truly be effective. I'm making a final case to you in my last statement as a candidate for mayor of the greatest city in the world, the city that I was born in, my wife was born in, my parents were born in, and my grandparents came to when they were just in their early 20s. My last request of you is that when you go to the ballot box, if you haven't already, think about the form of government that we have, that you selected, and think about what skills are required to be successful in that role. And with all due respect to everyone who's run for this office in this past cycle, I'm standing before you making the argument that I believe I'm uniquely qualified to get the job done for you. Again, my name is Eric Johnson, and I'm humbly asking for your vote for mayor of Dallas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Councilman Griggs.
Well, thank you, Rotarians, for having me out. This has been a wonderful time to spend with you. As you know, I'm Scott Griggs, and I'm here to ask for your vote as the next mayor of the city of Dallas. I'm a lifelong Dallasite, and I love this city, and I am ready to go to work for you on day one. On day one, I will handle this public safety crisis, start increasing retention, attracting more officers, lateraling them in, putting a plan in place with the city manager and the chief of police to get the murder rate down. On day one, I am ready to go to work for you handling housing in this city, as I've done for the last 8 years. On day one, I'm ready to handle transportation in the city of Dallas so that we've got a DART system that works for everyone, as well as the people in southern Dallas, as well as uptown and other areas, and that we fix our streets right the first time. On day one, I'm ready to put in the much-needed economic development policy that is going to grow southern Dallas. Let's not just focus on the big projects. Let's focus on the small projects as well as the needs of the neighborhood, from bringing in grocery stores, which to me are such an essential amenity, to the making capital available. That is how we are going to grow southern Dallas and reduce the tax rate. On day one, I'm ready to continue my budget work as I've done every single year, finding between $10, $15, $20 million in each budget that we can reallocate for what is most important to all of us. I'm here asking for your support and asking to learn more about the campaign. You are welcome to visit griggsfordallas.com to learn more. Also, did any of our literature here? I give out my cell phone number on my literature. So you're welcome, pick a piece up. It's also in the mail you received. Give me a call. The type of mayor I'm going to be is accessible. Reach out to me also on social media. I am here for you, and I look forward to being your next mayor, and thank you so much for having me out today. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. We certainly appreciate it. Election day is Saturday. Do not forget. Get out and vote.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. Scott, it was a pleasure to hear from you, and Eric is from you as well. Teresa, we appreciated you so much being our moderator today. And I'm curious, are you guys going to be able to stick around for a few minutes if anyone wants to come and ask questions afterwards? Excellent. Yes. Okay, great. And I have a gift for each of the three of you for being here today. We celebrated our centennial a few years ago, and so we have our Rotary Centennial History books. These books were signed for each of you, personalized for today's presentation. So everyone in the audience was invited to sign. So Teresa, this one's specifically for you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I believe this one's for you, Eric. Yes, there you are. This is really nice. Thank you. And for you, Scott. Thank you. Awesome. We appreciate you guys. And as we close this thing up, I just want to say thanks once again for you guys to be here today. Let me get through these questions here. We had them all queued up. There we go. Thank you guys once again. Okay, next week, real quick, next week we have our Scholarship Dream Team Winners Luncheon, which will be presented by the Dream Team, which is Dallas Rotarians Enabling Achievement Through Mentorship, in case you're wondering what Dream Team stands for. Our chairman is Lawrence Whaley, and he will be leading it next week. So come and meet these two bright students who are our scholarship recipients for the future. Hear about their plans and what they've got going on, where they're going to be going to school. And immediately following that, we will have our final board meeting for the 2018-19 Rotary year. And you have all probably seen out front, we have these Thank a Cop signs. Here we are. We are looking to get all of these out into the public by the end of this month. So if you haven't yet purchased one, there's just a small donation is a request for these signs. You can put it out in your yard and show your support for our Dallas police officers. So if you have any questions or would like to purchase one or several for yourself and your neighbors, please see John Forrest, who is our Safer Dallas, Better Dallas Committee Chair. And Trey Jones, Ashley Givens, they're also putting this out through Nextdoor Network in their neighborhood. So if you're interested in learning about that, you can speak to them or speak to me about it. So let's show some support for our police officers. And finally, our Rotary dues for the upcoming year are due by June 15th. So please make sure if you're a member of the Rotary Club of Dallas that you have paid something towards your dues by the 15th of June to keep your membership in good standing. If you have any questions on that, see Hillary or our treasurer, Jim Smith. Acceptance into Rotary is indeed an honor and a privilege, and we accept new members by invitation only. So if you are a guest here today, someone thought very highly to include you into this circle, we'd love to have you inquire about becoming a Rotarian. You can come and hear incredible speakers every week, sit among service-hearted, like-minded professionals, and typically taking in a gorgeous downtown view. Today's a little overcast. Regardless of the view, we'd love to have you each week. So remember to share the gift of Rotary, continue to be people of action, and be the inspiration. And now in closing, would all Rotarians please stand and recite with me of all the things that we think, say, and do. First. Second. Third. Fourth. And here at the Rotary Club of Dallas, we think it's pretty important to also be. Is it fun? Thank you so much. We are adjourned.